All right. Welcome back to the SFL show. It's your boy, Darius Barnes. I'll come up with you with some good info this week. We had the NFL playoffs get started. Some surprises. Some things happened the way we thought it was gonna happen. You would see I'm not wearing anything. Miami Dolphins this week. And we got the MMA world going in a frenzy with a press conference that happened. We'll talk a little bit about that and some of the upcoming fights that's getting ready to start as we finish up January. So not a ton to talk about today, but we're going to share our thoughts though on a few things. And we're going to start with this past weekend where we had the playoffs. And I can say there were a few surprises. That first game that we watched was between Houston and Cleveland. And I'll be honest, I knew CJ Stroud was good. I did not know he was this good. And when I watched him play against Cleveland this past weekend, I was blown away. And I seen him play at Ohio State. No, of course, watching the Ohio State Michigan game, we watched him. We know how talented he was. But if you talk to all of the experts, they would have told you, or they do tell you, that CJ Stroud struggles with tight man to man coverage. Didn't seem to have that struggle no this last weekend. Didn't seem to be a problem at all. It's amazing watching that Houston team play, honestly speaking. And the reason I say that is because it seems like, and no, like I said, it seems like they should not be winning these games. When we look at what they have as a team, we know they have CJ Stroud. He's a rookie. Yes, they have Singletary in the backfield. No, he's a pretty decent running back. But you look at what they have on the outside. Don't show. I mean, Nico Collins. I don't. I think Noah Brown might have played. I don't really know. I guess they have Robert Woods, Bobby Trees. He's out there. Noah Brown, I think, played, but any of those names that you throw out there, they don't blow you away. You're not afraid of Nico Collins normally. You're definitely not afraid of Robert Woods normally. No, Noah Brown, you're not afraid. These aren't individuals that you're afraid of. I think Dalton Schultz is really good, but that's still not someone that really scares you or you feel like you have to game plan for. Yet, this Houston offense with CJ Stroud running it seems to be pretty good. We even saw Brevin Jordan running down the field, outrunning DBs for a long touchdown. And you have to ask yourself, did Carolina really make a big mistake taking Bryce Young over CJ Stroud? Because this kid, this rookie, he looks amazing. Now, and normally you're getting better as the years go on. And if this is just the beginning of what this kid can be, ooh, watch out NFL. We got something brewing here. I compare him because of his size and everything like that. I compare him. He's not a scrambling quarterback. He seems to be fairly accurate. He seems to be very smart. So my comparison would be for him someone like no, I'll go this far. No, like a Patrick Mahomes. No, I'm not saying he's as good at Patrick Mahomes, but you look at the things that he can do. You look at how he extends plays. You look at some of the throws that he's able to make, which is every throw that is needed to make. You can see the comparison. Now, it's going to be interesting how he grows, but I look at what he's done his rookie year with the weapons he have, and I compared it to what Patrick Mahomes came in with. I say all the time, Patrick Mahomes, when he got to Kansas City, he had an array of weapons. No, he didn't have to start from the bottom, anything like that. He came into a really great team. I heard the other day when I was watching that the Kansas City Chiefs won their division for I think the eighth or the ninth year or something like that. I think Patrick Mahomes has been there for 5 or 6, so they were winning that division before he even got there. And now CJ Stroud has come into a team that had the second pick in the draft last year. The second pick in the draft, and they were probably preparing to be a team that was going to be picking early in the draft again this year. Rookie quarterback, rookie coach, young offense, not a bunch of weapons. Let's just start building something, get a good foundation, and see what we have here in the next 2 3 years. No, that rookie quarterback, that rookie coach ends up winning that division and then wins a playoff game against a team that we thought could compete or might have been in the talking for getting to the Super Bowl. The Cleveland Browns were not a scrub team, but man, did Houston make them look like one. You look at what Cleveland was before that game. We would talk about Stefanski being the coach of the year, which he still could be. We were talking about the emergence of Joe Flacco. We was talking about how great Amari Cooper was playing. We would talk about Njoku and how he's playing like one of the top five. I mean, we were having all of these conversations, and I even think there were people, I won't say any names, that really said Houston had no chance of winning this game, and they went into Cleveland and blew the doors off of them. That's impressive. That defense is no slouch. Myles Garrett, them guys are no slouch, and Houston went in there and handled them easily. Not that football is easily, but that game they handled them easily. And that is Baltimore. No, you better watch out. You better come ready to play because this Houston Texans team there's something to be reckoned with. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. I haven't heard anybody say it yet, at least not in the engine that I've been listening to. But I'm going to go ahead and say that the Houston Texans, they're going to be the one to win that division for the next 4 or 5 years. I think they are going to be the head of the AFC. Yes, I think they have jumped over what Jacksonville was, and they're the one that we need to watch out for in that AFC South division. I'm going ahead. I'm saying it now. I think they have the better quarterback in the division. I think D'Amico Ryan is a great coach. I'm not going to say he's the best coach because, of course, we know Doug Peterson does have a Super Bowl, but I think he's a really good coach, and he's going to get better as time goes on. And I think it's safe to say that the Houston Texans, they're the cream of the crop in the AFC South Division. There, I said it. No, and I'm hoping that comes to fruition because I don't want to sound like an idiot a few years from now. So, very good game. CJ Stroud, them boys really showed what they can do. Really hard to be happy for him because he is an Ohio State guy, but he's such a good kid too. On top of that, so you can't help but smile and say, "All right, good for you." And he's throwing to a Michigan receiver, so that kind of even things out. So now, when you get to the Cleveland Browns, they're gonna have some interesting choices to make, in my opinion, as they go forward. They have Deshaun Watson on a guaranteed contract. He's getting ready to go into his third year, and still to this point, he has not looked like the guy that was in Houston when he played for the Texans. He just has not looked that way. No, honestly speaking. Um, you watch somebody like Joe Flacco come in, and they look a lot better in that offense than he does. Although Flacco does throw interceptions, me and my brother, we were talking that as that game was going on, I was saying if this game was a shootout, no, that's what I said. If this game is a shootout, Houston has a better chance of winning because Flacco, he has the tendency to throw the ball to the other team sometimes. Not on purpose, no, obviously, but sometimes he has that tendency where he's throwing the ball and he's giving that other team an opportunity to catch the ball. And we saw that. No, we saw he had the two pick sixes. And then of course they went into scramble mode and it was pretty much downhill for that. So it's going to be interesting to see what Cleveland does as they go into the future because honestly, I don't think they're going to be able to trade Deshaun Watson. I don't think that's going to be possible. I think with what he's shown on the field and that contract, who's going to take him? I know that coaches have that arrogance where I can fix them, but who's going to want that contract? So it's going to be very interesting to see what Cleveland does on the offensive side of the ball. Of course, Nick Chubb had a gruesome injury. He'll be back. That's going to shore up that running game if he comes back the way he left. Kind of hard to imagine him to do so, but he's still young. I think Nick Chubb, with his work ethic, he's going to come back. He's going to be just as formidable as he was when he got hurt. So they're going to have the running game. Of course, Amari Cooper is still there. They're still going to have Njoku. I'm sure they'll continue to add talent. But that quarterback position, that's going to be interesting to see how they work that out. Do you go back to Deshaun because he is the one that's getting all the guaranteed money? Do you try to find something else? Do you sit your big money quarterback? I mean, I don't know. Now, I know the one thing that I'm loving is seeing Baker Mayfield do what he's doing in Tampa. We'll get to that game here in just a second, and seeing what happened with Cleveland in that quarterback position. I'm loving seeing that because I am one that feel like they kind of did Baker wrong. So I'm sure because Baker's kind of petty. No, he's dancing and he's doing things, and no, if he could tell Cleveland, "I told you so," I'm sure he would absolutely take advantage of that. So Cleveland, got family from there. Of course, my father was born there. Good luck. We'll see what happens in the future. And yeah, so have fun with that Watson contract. That seems to be working out real well for you also. So that was that first game. And then of course we had the Saturday night game. Oh, boy. And this game was not as much surprise as the Houston Cleveland game. I felt like what you saw from the Miami Dolphins was basically what you're going to get from the Miami Dolphins in this game. What was going on and what they've shown the past couple of weeks. So let's talk about that. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna get this over with. Rip the band-aid right off. Let's go ahead and talk about the Dolphins and the Chiefs. The Dolphins go into Kansas City, -degree weather, and they pretty much put up 7 points while Kansas City puts up 26. Um, I expected it. I'll be honest with you with the way the Dolphins offense has been playing. I did not expect him to go in there and score a bunch of points. I even went as far as to say when they did score their lone touchdown, that was a fluke touchdown. I was talking to my older brother, I like, it's a fluke touchdown. That was a throw up. Tyreek made a good play. And when I say fluke, I'm not meaning that they didn't do it on purpose. I'm not looking at it like the way the Kansas City the Chargers touchdown was when they played last year, where the ball gets fumbled and Tyreek picks it up. And I'm not saying it's a fluke like that. I was just saying that that touchdown was not sustainable. That's not something that they were going to be able to duplicate. No, I felt like the way that touchdown went down, like, okay, they're not going to be able to do that again. No, and that's what it was. And we'll start with the Chiefs. We'll start with the Chiefs because we know who the Chiefs are. The Chiefs are Patrick Mahomes. They are Travis Kelsey. This year they are a strong defense, and they went out there and they showed who they were. Believe it or not, I think the Dolphins defense played fairly decent for what they had. Like I say, we're getting to the Dolphin side of the ball, Dolphin side here in just a minute. But the Chiefs went out there, they played the way they want to play. They use Isaiah Pacheco. They use Rasheed Rice, Travis Kelsey, who had a few drops. No, he's starting to drop the ball a little bit more. I don't know what's that about, but he had a few drops. But they used Travis Kelsey. They were able to drive the ball, drive the ball, drive the ball. Of course, the Dolphins had some good stands there in the red zone, which was able to hold them to field goals. But when it was all said and done, no, you had the Chiefs score 26 and the Dolphins score 7. So, um, and I like the Chiefs. I like Patrick Mahomes. They got a tough game coming up going against Buffalo because I think Buffalo's a really hot team right now. They're a really good team right now. But I still feel the Chiefs has to handle the drop issues. And it's funny because this week it was more so of Kelsey dropping the ball. Now that could have something to do with the weather, things of that nature, but it's going to be cold in Buffalo as well. So I still think they got to shore that up if they want to be a team like the Bills. They're going to have to stop the drops. I think Patrick Mahomes is still going to make plays. He made plays with his legs last week or this past weekend. Uh, he made plays with his arm. He outsmarted them in a couple of different things. There were times where he was running through tackles, I guess because he knew that they weren't going to try to tackle him. I mean, Patrick Mahomes really did what you see him do in the playoffs in the past. So the Chiefs, always going to be a tough out. Very interested and anxious to see that Buffalo game, to see how that game works out. And we'll see how far they go, see if they can make another run. A lot of people counted them out this year, but we'll see if they can make another run and go from there. So now, when it comes to the Dolphins, no, when it comes to the Dolphins were very disappointing. I would say very disappointing. There were a few things that I wanted to point out when it comes to the Dolphins, and one of those things is they're gonna have to figure out what they're going to do with Tua. Okay. Now you've heard me say I want to see Tua do well. I want to see Tua do good. I'm always arguing about Tua, whether he's a good quarterback, where he's decent. My brother said that he feels like 75% of the quarterbacks in the NFL can do what Tua does. That's like 22 of the quarterbacks. And I argue that. I argue that with him. I think Tua has a really good skill set that a lot of individuals can't do with his anticipation, his accuracy. I'm no expert. I'm no office coordinator. Of course, a lot of it is looking and listening to what others are saying. So I'm just recycling those things. But I will say this about Tua. It's going to be interesting to see if the Dolphins want to hold on to him long term if he can't extend plays. Okay. Now we've heard everyone from Cam Newton talk about game manager, game changer, this, that, whatever. No, and I understand that concept, and I even agree with him. I think we were a little bit too hard on Cam when he was talking about that. Cam has the credentials to talk about game manager, game changer. To me, he's just as qualified as Dan Orlowski or Bart Scott or Damian Wood. He's just as qualified. I mean, I look at him the same way. He may not be on TV, and we may look at him and he said he dressed funky or whatever the case may be. But I think that Cam is more qualified or just as qualified to talk about the quarterback position as anybody else. He's definitely more qualified than those like Stephen A. and Skip Bayless and stuff like that. They never even played. Not saying they're not smart. Not by any means would I ever say anything like that. Those guys are extremely smart. They know what they're talking about. But when you're talking about that position, I think an individual that's played it is a lot more qualified to talk about it than someone that hasn't. So with with Tua, if he can't extend plays, it's going to be very hard for him to play quarterback in the NFL. No, these days. I mean, the days of quarterbacks being able to just drop back one, two, three, get the ball out, those days are pretty much done, over with. You have to be able to extend. You have to be able to roll out. You have to be able to give yourself 2 or 3 more seconds to allow a receiver to get open and then make a play. I was just going through the NFL and the different quarterbacks, and I was saying, is there another quarterback in the NFL that is like Tua, that is just not willing to extend plays? Once the play breaks down, once cup no read 1, 2, 3 is done, we got to go ahead, we got to chuck it in the ground, or we got to throw it away, whatever the case may be. And I couldn't think of one. So then I started to think about it, and I was like, well, let's go through Tua's history. And I remember in Alabama, Tua had a little bit of mobility. That's actually what got him hurt, trying to extend plays all the time. He would hold on to the ball probably a little bit longer than he needed to. And then once he got to the NFL, I was looking at highlights, and you had highlights of Tua running and taking on tacklers and just doing a bunch of different things to assist play. I even forgot last year in the Baltimore game. In the Baltimore game when they're making their comeback. Tua drops back. You have a free rusher coming from the left side. He gives a fake to the right, and then he spins to the left. He just completely just spins around to the left, rolls out, hits River Craycraft. No, coming across in the end zone where he extended that play. You look at the play against Waddle, the last touchdown pass he threw. He steps up, he drops back, he steps up into the pocket, he slides over to the left, throws a jump ball for Waddle. He gets it, he extends that play. He doesn't do that anymore. At least he didn't this year. And I'm wondering, is that because he was told not to? Was this something that he had to compromise when it came to his doctors? Is this something that was said, "Hey, you need to play all 17 games, and the best way to do that is not to get hit. So we're gonna do one, two, three. If the read's not there, we're gonna just get rid of." I mean, I'm wondering if that has anything to do with it, and I'm also wondering, is there a way they can turn that back on? No, where he does use his legs a little bit more. I know he's put on weight. I know he's been practicing how to fall, but is there something that they can kind of flip? There's a switch that they can kind of flip to turn it back on and say, okay, we need you to do maybe not as much of it as you was doing last year, but just a little bit more. Now, I'm wondering if there's a way that they can do that because if there's not, I honestly don't see how if that, I think Tula's at his ceiling, to be honest. No, as much as I love him, if you're not going to extend plays, I think that you are at your ceiling, and I think that's what people are seeing. If he can't move to the left, move to the right, no, step up, whatever the case may be. If he can't do those things, maybe get a first down or two um, with your legs. No, I mean, because teams, defenses, they're gonna figure this offense out. They're gonna be able to take away the first or second thing that you want to do, even the third thing. They're gonna be able to take those things away, and you're gonna have to give yourself, maybe 2, 3 more seconds to make something happen. And if he's not able to do that, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. So we'll see what happens there. In that game, though, to get back to the game, I just want to talk about that. To get back to the game, I felt like the Dolphins lost that game in the second quarter with about 4 or 5 minutes left, and they were doing a drive. And I'm going to pull up this drive because I thought it was interesting with what happened. So the Dolphins get the ball. There's a couple of minutes left. I think half of the quarters is gone over. And first down, they run Raheem Mostert. He gets 8 yards. Second down, they run Mostert. He gets 4 yards. Now we back at first down again. They run Mostert. He gets 3 yards. The next one, they run Mostert. He gets 6 yards. So now we're dealing with a 3rd and 1, and we're on the Kansas City 44-yard line. So let me go through this again. Run 8 yards, run 4 yards, run 3 yards, run 6 yards. Now we're in 3rd and 1. And I remember talking to my brother, and I said, they're going to throw this ball. Watch them. All right. 3rd and 1. They've been running 8, 4, 3, 6. Pretty good yards. Now we're in 3rd and 1. I want you all to hear that. And just as sure as I said it, and I wish he was on here with us to confirm it, the Miami Dolphins dropped back. They threw a ball. Raheem Mostert, flare up pass. Of course, the wing gets a hold of it. Does not work. He drops it or it doesn't get to him. 4th and 1. Of course, the Dolphins go for it. And you would think, no, let me say it again. First run, 8 yards. Second run, 4 yards. Third run, 3 yards. Fourth run, 6 yards. Now we're in a 4th and 1. They throw it again. Pass gets broken up. And then, of course, that turns the ball over to the Kansas City Chiefs. They go down, they kick another field goal. And now it's 16-7 going to the halftime. Instead of 13-10, 13-14, whatever the case may be, going into halftime. And to me, you have a different game from then on out. Now, game's not close from then on out. The Dolphins never do anything else on offense. I don't even think they even get back down to the 30-yard line of Kansas City or anything like that. The game's pretty much over. But that series, I think, right there lost that game. And I've always said that I like Mike McDaniel. He's a great coach. He's a great play caller. But situational play calling, I think he struggles with. You know what? It's not my place to say that he struggles with it. That's not my place. I can't even say that. I would say situational play calling, he probably can get additional help with it. No, because I felt like those are places where you run the ball. 3rd and 1, run it. 4th and 1, run it. You're averaging in those first 4 runs about 5 yards a carry. Why not keep running? You know, it's a little bit, and then it's snowing. People don't want to tackle, running backs in that type of weather. So I've heard. They don't really want to do that. But I thought that was a very telling drive. I thought that that really said a lot about who the Dolphins were, and no, it pretty much just summed up the season because I think their season ended right there. No, so they end the season, they lose that game. Of course, as a fan, a lot of people have said you should have some silver lining. Look at it this way: they were 11-6. They made it to the playoffs 2 years in a row. Yada yada. You know, I don't look at it this way. I'm gonna be honest with you. I look at this Dolphin season as a failure. Me personally, I look at this as a failure. Here's why: 5 games ago, 5 games ago, they were what 10-3, no, or something like that. They were going into a Monday night game in Tennessee with 5 games left, a 3 game lead with 5 games to go, and you had a broken Tennessee team with their backup rookie quarterback coming in who gave you 3 turnovers, and you lost that game at home. At home. They lost that game. And then they went on to get beat by Baltimore by 87 points. And then, of course, they ended up losing to Buffalo in that last home game once again, where Buffalo was really trying to hand them that game and ended up getting the 6th seed and having to play in negative 96 degrees instead of playing in 75 and sunny back in Miami. So, because you put yourself in that situation where you were able to win the division and be a top 1 or 2 seed, and you just struggled down the stretch, ended up being a 6th seed, having to play in Kansas City, I do look at that as a failure. If you would have told me at the beginning of the season that they were going to be 11-6 and get to the playoffs, Tua was going to play all 17 games, I say, okay, that's pretty good. But when you tell me, oh, where you're going to be 10-3 at one point in time with the last 3 or 4 games of the season, you're going to be winning the division by 2 or 3 games, and you're going to have 3 games at home. If you add that content to it, then to me, that's a failure of a season. Still a fan, ride or die with my Dolphins, fins up, all of it. But I do feel like they failed this season. I think that they missed an opportunity to do something special this year. I think everybody has some blame to take there. Tua has some blame. The coaching staff has some blame. Of course, there were injuries. I don't use that as an excuse as much as others. They were very hurt on defense, but I thought the defense played decent. The offense didn't play well. Yes, their offensive line was broken, but the offensive line has been broken all year. No, so that's not something that's different from what they've been dealing with. They still had all their skill players out there, albeit injured. No, Waddle was dealing with an injury. Mostert was dealing with an injury. No, Tyreek was dealing with an injury, but they were there. They were there. And we've seen other teams have injuries. Buffalo, they've been decimated. You see what they were. They were able to win their games down the stretch. No, so I don't want to hear much about the injury things. That's no excuse. I think this was a failure of a season for the Dolphins simply because of where they put themselves in December. And I felt like they failed down the stretch. So we'll see what's in line for next year. I will love them get a big play receiver. No, when I say big play, I mean tall, long, where we can throw the ball up. Maybe have them do some jump balls because I don't think that is Waddle or Tyreek's strong point. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Tua with his contract situation. I don't feel like he needs to be paid 40-45 million a year, but it'll be interesting to see how that works. I think Tua really should look at things and say, "Hey, I love this team. I love the talent that they have around me. I understand that if I'm getting paid $40 million a year, it's going to take away their ability to get that talent. So hey, give me 30, give me 27, something like that, and let's continue to build." I know that probably sounds crazy, but I don't have a bunch of money. So if you offered me 25, 27 million to play, I would do that. So you can continue to build around me. Don't know why more players don't do that. I guess this is no, it's all about money. But it's going to be interesting to see. what the Dolphins do this in the off season for this year. So no, you had that game. And then of course you had the Sunday games where first one was a real surprise. Green Bay just went in there and just smacked up no NFC Miami, which is the Dallas Cowboys. I look at those two teams the same. The Cowboys and the Dolphins, to me, same team. But Green Bay went in there and just completely destroyed the Cowboys. I mean, it wasn't even close. No, it wasn't even close. And the Cowboys is in quite a situation because you don't really know what they need. I mean, that's a good team over there. They have quarterback. They have weapons on offense. They got a defensive stud. They got a no defensive secondary. They're a little bit small up front, so I guess maybe that's what they're needing, some more beef up front. But that's a good team, and you look at that team and you be like, "What's going on here? Is it the coaching staff? Is it preparation? What exactly is it?" Because Green Bay just went in there and took it to them. Wasn't even close from the beginning. From the first time they got the ball, you saw Jordan Love doing the little no throw jumps that we saw Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers do. Green Bay has to be they have to be the luckiest team ever when it comes to quarterbacks. I used to say that about the Chargers because they went from Philip Rivers, well, they had Drew Brees, and then they went to Philip Rivers. No, and then it's Justin Herbert. But they've had some gaps. No, there, man. What Green Bay, man, for the last 30 years, they've had a good quarterback, a great quarterback play. Brett Favre and Rodgers, and it looks like Jordan Love going to be that same type of quarterback. So, yeah, they took it to him. They took it to him. It's nothing to say about that. Dak didn't play his best game. The defense didn't play their best game. They couldn't stop the pass. They couldn't stop the run. It was just bad on all ends. Which is bad on all ends. So it's not much to say about that game, but domination by the Green Bay Packers in Dallas at that. No, and of course, no, we love to jump on the Cowboys. So the entire day on Monday, all we could talk about was the Cowboys losing that game. I don't think they talked about another game on TV. It was just the Cowboys, 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 Cowboys. So, good luck in the off season. Let's see what y'all gonna do with the coaching staff. Some are saying that you need to make changes. I've even heard some say that you need to get rid of everybody. Dak, Quinn, McCarthy, everybody needs to go. I know Michael Irvin put a tweet out there that was pretty hilarious, was saying no, they behinds need to go. Um, I don't think they all need to go, but I do think that something has to change simply because of the fact that that team seems to be good in the regular season. They're normally winning 12 games. I think for the last 3 years they've won 12 games, and they get to the playoffs and they just don't show up for whatever reason. So we'll see what changes are made there. Um, and we'll see if the Cowboys can do it again next year. So, but as of right now, it looks like Stephen A. is right. Just wait. They'll show you who they really are. No, of course the Packers, they play great. They're hot at the right time. I'm very interested to see what they do against the 49ers on this next upcoming week. That's going to be a very interesting game. I don't think they could beat the 49ers, but man, it's going to be fun to watch. It'll be fun to see LaFleur go up against that staff. LaFleur, Shanahan, they kind of have that relationship. So that'll be fun and interesting to see how that works. And then, of course, we had the Sunday night game with Detroit and the Rams. This was probably the game that I was looking forward to the most. It was the only game that was actually a good game over the weekend. You had the Lions win by 1 point against the Rams, and I will say I was happy about that result. I was happy about the result. Here's why. I felt like the Rams, although I understand it, I'm not gonna try to make it seem like I don't understand it. I do understand it, but I felt like they handled Jared Goff wrong. What they did with Jared Goff, though, after being drafted number one pick in the draft, no, Jeff Fisher, I think, made that draft pick. He has a down year. Some even consider him to be a number one bust. We think about some of the guys that were bust. We was kind of throwing Jared Goff in that category as well. Then Sean McVay gets that job, and he does to Jared Goff, honestly, what Mike McDaniel has done with Tua. He finds his strengths and he capitalizes on that. And they have a phenomenal year. Todd Gurley running up and down the field. That offense is dynamic. Things like that. They make it to the Super Bowl. Bill Belichick did what Belichick does. He shuts it all down. They lose the Super Bowl. And then, of course, now Jared Goff is out of there. He's out of there. He's sent to Detroit because, for our understanding, he's just not what the He's just not what the Rams want. They get Matt Stafford. He wins the Super Bowl. So it turns out that they were right. No, Sean McVay. Turns out he was right. He got his Super Bowl. And then, of course, Jared Goff goes to Detroit. And you continue to see the grow. You continue to see him get better, get better, get better, and get better. And now you have what you have now. So I was excited to see the Rams and the Lions play, and I was happy to see the Lions win that game because I think that was a real good confident boost for Jared Goff. And to be honest, I think they're going to be the one to play. No, because I think the 49ers are going to win the 49ers in the NFC Championship. And that can be dangerous because I think winning this game does give Jared Goff a boost of confidence because now he can play a lot freely. They have a great run game. If they can get pressure on the quarterback with Aiden Hutchinson, of course, he can muddy up any game. Detroit's going to be a scary game, a scary team. Detroit's going to be very scary, no, especially if they make it to the NFC Championship. So, was happy to see Detroit win the game and won it 24-23. Great game. I love the last call that Detroit made, to run the clock out. They called a dig route of some sort with Amara St. Brown. Jared Goff throws the ball right there, gets that first down, and then they get to nail the ball. Show some confidence, some guts. So, awesome game. Was an awesome game. Loved the game. And good luck, Detroit. We'll see what you all get in the next round. So, and then we had the Monday night games or Monday games. Buffalo and Pittsburgh was supposed to play on that Sunday, but got snowed out. It's Buffalo, so of course it got snowed out. And Buffalo looked like Buffalo. Buffalo looked like Buffalo. They were able to run the ball. Josh Allen is doing Josh Allen things. The defense was able to know, stop, Pickens and Johnson and Najee Harris, things like that. Made it close for a little while. Pittsburgh did try to make it close for a little while, but that game never looked in doubt. And I think Buffalo, along with Baltimore, are going to be are two of the scariest teams, and I think those two teams can win the Super Bowl. To be honest, really interested to see what they do against the Chiefs because the Chiefs look decent as well. But Buffalo, they've been on a hot streak the last couple of weeks. I think they've won maybe 4 or 5 in a row now. So if Buffalo keeps it up, if Josh Allen does not turn the ball over, that's a tough team to deal with. If you have a Josh Allen that is playing within the system, not turning the ball over, and then he's making the throws and the runs that he's capable of doing, good luck for anybody beating that team. I mean, Buffalo is just a solid team. And even with all the injuries on defense, you see what Sean McDermott is doing. He said, okay, you guys up front, you're going to lead the show. You're going to run the show. If you all get pressure, you all shut things down, make them have to throw the ball fast. We'll go ahead and we'll blanket and we'll keep everything in front of us and we'll get the ball back to our offense. So that defense has even been playing well the last couple of games. So Buffalo's scary. No, as much as I hate to say it, Buffalo is scary. No, and no, if they can get past Kansas City, no, you may see them in the Super Bowl. No, so very interested to see that game because it's Patrick Mahomes' first road game in the playoffs. That's going to be a very interesting game. Very interesting game. But Buffalo did what they were supposed to do in the snow. You gotta love Bills Mafia, because I've been to a couple of games where Bills Mafia was there, and they take over any stadium. I mean, those are some passionate fans, and I can just imagine what it's like being in that stadium right there in Orchard Park in New York. That has to be something to see. Um, I don't know if I would ever want to go there in one of those snow games. But Bills Mafia, they come with it. They travel and they gonna support their team. I got two brothers that's on the Bills Mafia, and they support their team. They can't shut up about them. That's all they ever talk about. They like to say the Dolphins suck. Tuna fish, tuna fish, tuna fish. Buffalo Bills are great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, of course, right now they have bragging rights for the next couple of months. That's going to be fun for me. You all pray for me that I'm able to endure everything that I'm going to have to hear about the Buffalo Bills, especially if they go to the Super Bowl and win it. Oh my gosh, I never hit the end of it. So, but it's justified. No, they're a great team. So we'll see what happens with their next matchup. And of course, the last game for the weekend, we had the Eagles go against the Buccaneers, and this Eagles team just fell apart at the end of the season. No, there's no other way to say it. They just completely just fell off a cliff. I was watching, the new True Detective series on Sunday. Of course, that came on Sunday, and at the start of that show, spoiler alert, there's a scene where it looked like there are reindeers, and as the sun goes down, they all start to take off, and they all just jump over a cliff for some reason. I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna give us a meaning to that later on in the show, but they all jump over the cliff. They all jump off a cliff, and that's exactly what the Eagles did. They just fell off a cliff. No, and they just never looked good. AJ Brown did not play this game. No, and no, doesn't seem like anybody else did for the Eagles as well because once again, the game was not even close. Tampa Bay dominated them on the defense side of the ball, and they did what they want to do on the offense side of the ball. And I don't think I've ever seen such bad tackling from a defense than what I saw from the Philadelphia Eagles in the secondary during that game. It was wild seeing some of the broken tackles that was going on from Tampa Bay. I was like, man, Tampa Bay must got some strong runners. I don't know because yeah, the tackling was horrendous. And Eagle season is over. Here's a team that was in the Super Bowl last year, and at one point in time was 10-1, and here it is they get bounced in the playoffs, lose by I think 20, 25 points. Um, Happy for Baker Mayfield. I'm very happy for Baker Mayfield. Like I say, seeing what happened to him in Cleveland. No, you're like, wow, this is seems to be a good fit for him. Don't know if this is where his future lies. We don't know if he'll be here for the foreseeable future, but though I was happy to see him win, and he played well. Baker Mayfield played well, and now they get to go to Detroit and play against that team. So that's going to be an interesting game. That's going to be an interesting game. I don't think Detroit's going to go over there and just run over them. I can absolutely see Tampa Bay winning this game. But I think Detroit is just going to be just a tad bit, just a smidge too much. So we'll see what happens. That's going to be an interesting game. So those were our games this weekend. So coming up, here in our next weekend, we have the Texans going against the Ravens. No, of course, that's going to be the first time we see Lamar and those guys play in about 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll see if there's an effect from that. And then we'll also have the Chiefs going up against the Bills. Of course, that's one of those staple games that we've been seeing for the last couple of years. They had a good game this week. This was the game where the Kadarius Tony step over the line and the touchdown gets called back. So it'll be like the fifth quarter of that game. So some good games over there on the AFC side. I'm not going to predict who wins. I don't really do the prediction thing too much. I'm not that good at it either. So, and on the NFC side, we have Tampa Bay going up against Detroit in a dome. We need to make sure that the individual that was asking Todd Bowles that knows that they're playing in the dome. And you have the 49ers going against the Packers, which as well is going to be a very interesting game. So some good games coming up. Looking forward to it. Then we have championship weekend where we have our AFC NFC championship games. Really looking forward to that. Football season is winding down. No, it's winding down. This is somewhat of a bittersweet time of year. As it starts to wind down, and then we'll start to talk a little bit more about basketball. Here in the future, as the season wind down. So, that's what we had going on in the NFL. Great games. Those teams whose seasons are over, great seasons. We'll see what you all do to get better in the off season, and hopefully you all come back stronger, better than you did this year. So that's what we have for the NFL. Um, Wanted to switch gears here, talk a little bit about MMA. Those of you that know me know probably know I am a huge MMA fan. Been to a few fights, got a heavy bag in my garage that I don't hit enough. I pretty much watch every fight that comes on. Started watching MMA really early. I found it interesting because now when someone asks me, what was it that got me into it, and I was watching a fight one time, and it was a different kind of fight. Now, while I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and I got a guy that's laying down on the mat and he's on his back. And it's almost as if the guy that's standing up was afraid of him on his back. And I'm like, why is he scared of that dude? He's on his back. Just jump down on him and just beat him down. Just punch him in the face, whatever the case may be. And I didn't understand why he was so afraid of this guy that was laying on his back on this ground. He was trying to get away from him, just that whatever. The guy was kind of sliding on his back. And then once that fighter got him down to the ground, I got a better understanding as to why he was afraid of this guy on the ground. So I was like, man, this individual is probably more dangerous on his back than you or I could ever be standing up. That is interesting, and that got me started with MMA because that was interesting to me. I never seen anything like that. I know some people say it's brutal. No, you see the blood, you see the cuts, you see the elbows, we see the knockout, things like that. So it does have a sense of brutality to it. But I do like to see the different arts. I like to see the grappling. I like to see those that are kickboxers, those that are punchers. I like to see it all. I think it's a phenomenal sport. Um, and the first fighter, the very first fighter or champion that really caught my attention, and I like that dude was Matt Hughes. No, Matt Hughes was a welterweight fighter. He was the welterweight champ for a while. If you go and you look him up, you'll see that he has some real legendary fights with BJ Penn and GSP, things like that. But Matt Hughes was the first guy that I really fell in love with and was like, man, I really like the way this guy fights. And then you saw guys like Robbie Lawler, things coming up under him. So that was my initiation into mixed martial arts. Of course, I remember the Shamrock, Tito Ortiz, things like that. I just watched it for entertainment. Then once I started to really get into it, I really started to watch it for the arts. And we have what we have today. Even been to a couple of training sessions myself. No, but I bring that up because we have a fight this weekend. It's the first fight that we've had in a while, first pay per view event, and you have Sean Strickland going against Dricus Duplessis for the middleweight championship. Sean Strickland just beat Israel Adesanya for the middleweight champ. Dricus Duplessis, his last fight was against Robert Whitaker. We thought that he was going to be the one to challenge Izzy instead of Sean Strickland, but there were some injuries I think that was going on. Sean Strickland got the fight; he won the fight. So now they're matching up for the 185-pound championship, middleweight championship. Um, so, of course, whenever we have these fights, there are interview processes and things like that that they have to do. So, in their interview, no, we had Sean Strickland up there, and he is talking about the homosexuality. He's talking about the trans community, things of that nature. I understand we all have beliefs. We all have things that we believe, whether right, wrong, this, that, whatever. That's something that we're not going to talk about too much on here. But if you were to go out and listen to that interview and listen to the things that he's saying, he's actually, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to say no that I'm right, but in my opinion, he's spewing a lot of hate. No, it seems like for the trans community, things like that. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to it and I'm wondering, I'm like, wow, he's able to get away with this because I guess where he's fighting at. He's fighting in the UFC. We all know, and we're not going to get into that. We all know what the UFC stands for. Although I love the sport, we see Dana White. We know what he represents. We know who he hangs with. Things of that nature. We're not going to get into that. But I found it very interesting that Sean Strickland was able to get up in the interview and say some of the things that he said. Not going to repeat it, not going to even play it. If you want to listen to it, you can go out there, listen to that interview, and tell me what your thoughts, or just put it in the comments. Tell me what your thoughts are. Not going to say right or wrong. I'm not going to say his views, though, whether they were right or wrong. But it sounds like there's a lot of hate in that verbiage that he was using. With the terms, the terminology, things like that he was using, has nothing to do with him as a fighter. I think he is a phenomenal fighter. I actually think he's going to win the fight this weekend. You know, but man, it just reminds me of the world that we're living in today. That we can get in front of microphones and we can talk that way without anything being said to us. So, um, that's going to be interesting. Only reason I bring that up is because I thought that was a big deal. I don't. I think that in a professional organization, you should have to carry yourself in a certain manner. Guess not in fighting. No, when you look at what they do for a living, maybe not so much in fighting. But no, the UFC falls under the ESPN umbrella, which falls under the Disney umbrella, and I would have thought that somebody would have cut that off and said, "Hey, we're not going to do that." Nevertheless, didn't happen. But looking forward to the fight, the actual fight. I think it's going to be a very interesting fight. To be honest, not interested in any of the other fights on that card. That's probably the only fight that I will be interested in. But I think it's going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be a good fight. The other stuff surrounding it can kind of do without that. So, you also have UFC 300. That fight is coming up here in a couple of months. Not worried about 298, 299, whichever ones they have coming up. I'm worried about 300, or I'm thinking about 300 because there was just a fight made. Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway. That's going to be a phenomenal fight. Max Holloway, of course, just finished Korean Zombie in his retirement fight. No, knocked him out flush, right on the chin. Zombie went out the way Zombie goes out, and of course Justin Gaethje is coming out to knock out my favorite fighter, which is Dustin Poirier. Was sad to see it, like Gaethje as well. So that's going to be a very interesting fight. I think that's going to be a good fight as well. We'll see who comes home with that BMF belt that George Masvidal kind of initiated with him and Nick Diaz. So excited about the MMA fights coming back. Looking forward to those. Get back in there. I wish I had someone in my family that was interested in MMA that I can watch those fights with. Nevertheless, until I find someone, I just watch them myself. So great things going on in the sports world. Of course, some great things going on. In my life. Of course, you all always hear me say, I enjoy life. I enjoy my family, my friends. Of course, there's always stories that I can tell, about my kids as they're growing up, things like that. But I am really enjoying life, and I enjoy doing this. Like I say, I don't know who listens to it, I don't know who sees it, but I do enjoy it. So I'm just gonna ask, as you see these on YouTube, just listen to them and give me comments. Now, honestly speaking, give me comments. Now, tell me some of the things that you would like to hear me talk about. Now, even subscribe. I'll see how we can do that. Where I can get you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, where you all can say, hey, I want to be a subscriber, and maybe we can do this in a more professional manner. So, with that being said, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna get out of here. Remember to take care of yourselves. Remember to love on your family. And remember that no matter what, things will always work out. Things will always work out, if you do what you're supposed to do. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to end right now. You all take care of yourself. Peace and love. And I will talk to you all later.